Welcome to Candoor, where candid conversations open career doors. I'm your host, Christina Hu, and today we'll be having a candid conversation with Uma Abu. Uma Abu is a software engineer at Microsoft. He graduated from Iowa State University with a bachelor's in software engineering. While in college, he was heavily involved with the Iowa State chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers, where he served as a senator representing the chapter on a regional and national level. Uma has a passion for software and technology. He co founded Candoor because he strongly believes in the mission to democratize opportunity access. He also believes talking to the right person can change your life and mindset, and everyone should have equal opportunity to find that person. Uma, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me, Christina. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. So we've heard a little bit about you, but maybe tell us a bit more about yourself.
Um, my name is Uma. I was born in Nigeria. I was born and raised in Nigeria, Jos, Plateau State to be specific. I moved to the US in 2015 for school, went to Iowa State University, originally started off in aerospace engineering and then made a transition to software engineering and graduated with my bachelor's in software engineering. Moved to Minnesota. Now I currently live and work in the state of Washington, Seattle, Washington in specific.
That's awesome. Tell us a bit more about that initial transition. You mentioned you started out in aerospace and then sort of made the pivot. What inspired you to ultimately pursue software engineering?
Um, I think it was more of what drove me away from aerospace engineering. I have a passion for planes. I love. I think it was more of a just thinking about how something that big could go up in the air and come down in one piece. I was just intrigued by the whole engineering behind it, and so I thought, you know, um, I thought of it as a passion, but I think it was just more being intrigued. And so after I took the aerospace classes and I figured out the physics and all that stuff, it was like that excitement just died down because there wasn't any more passion towards it, right? And so what ended up happening was my junior year, I looked for a major, something where I couldn't get bored, something that was constantly evolving, something where I could work on anything I want or any field I want. And there's a few of them. Mechanical engineering is one of them, but I ended up pivoting to software just because at that time it was what piqued my interest.
That's exciting. So you're currently a software engineer at Microsoft. Walk us through a day in your life.
A lot of it. So I typically wake up in the morning when my eyes open, just because I tend to have a lot doing. Um, Wake up. Um, so do you want a typical day just at work or in my life in personal?
An entire day in your life.
Okay. So I typically wake up when my eyes open. The first thing I try to do is stretch, do some form of stretching, pull out the yoga mat, stretch. Then I shower, have breakfast, and then from there, come to the desk. Typically start working around 8 a.m., 8:30. Try to either do some of the task from yesterday, just complete things, or either reply to personal emails I have, run personal errands, do stuff, and then from like 9 a.m. I start my work at Microsoft, and again complete some of the tasks there. 10 a.m. I have stand up, and then throughout the day from like 10 a.m. to like 2 p.m. there's typically meetings after meetings after meetings, and then have all of those meetings, and then from 2 p.m. I have my focus time where I just block out my calendar to try to get actual work done. And from 2 p.m. to like 5 p.m., I do that. And then after that, from 5 p.m., I typically see what's happening with Candoor. That's when I start, triaging the bugs, fixing all the bugs, and just trying to figure out, okay, what's our number one priority? What do we need to get done? That's when I look for all your Slack messages saying, hey, this isn't working or that isn't working. And, try to fix them between 5 and 7. 7 p.m. I head over to the gym, get a workout in, come back. And after my workout, have dinner. Then I work as well on Candoor, try to implement some of our features, try to see what's happening there. And at around 10, 11 p.m., I try to go to sleep, but most of the time it never happens just because of the sheer amount of work. And yeah.
I feel you there. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. I'm inspired by how you went from your path into coding professionally full time at Microsoft and also being Candour's founding engineer. We are so blessed to have you. One question that I'm thinking through is what is it like to kind of make that leap from, you know, studying software engineering in college to actually coding professionally? Were there any surprises or challenges that you faced along the way?
I think because of my approach to a lot of things, I wasn't as surprised as most people would be. I'm a very hands-on type of person. I love getting in the weeds of things. I love actually writing the code. I've built apps in the past. I have apps in the App Store. Whenever I have a project in mind, I pretty much just be like, well, how let's see how long it'll take. And I typically spend like a whole weekend just building something and making a video about it and putting it on my YouTube channel. So I early on I realized that a lot of programming and a lot of what you actually learn in school is just a theory, but what actually what you actually use in the real job is the practical sense. And the theory will teach you the an engine has, you know, four chambers and this is how combustion works, but in the practical sense is get in the car and drive, and they're two completely different things. So having a lot of experience with the practical side in my own personal time with personal projects, deploying these apps to production and services like AWS, Azure. When I you know came into the an actual job, a real job where I was getting paid, it was the exact same thing. Right now, I was just doing it for a customer facing service, which has its which has things that you have to worry about in that specific. But I think for me, that transition wasn't as big, or I didn't see too much of a gap just because of the way I had handled things previously.
That's really interesting. Let's dive into some of those personal projects. Could you give an example of one that you're especially proud of that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the move. The move is an no, not the move. Sorry, the move was an app that I created and never got to the app store for several reasons. I would say, let me see, Uptill. So Uptill is a simple calendar app that just helps you keep track of how many days you have left to an event that you're having. So say you have like an anniversary coming up, you put the anniversary date in there, you save it, you can put like a background picture, you can customize it to what you want, and it's just a countdown app pretty much. And it seemed simple, but I think what excited me the most about that was just releasing something to the app store. It has always been my passion to go to the app store, search an app, and see developer and see my name under. That's just what I had. I think another thing that really excites me to date about Optil was is just my the way I think through it. So the first version of the app was just simple, put everything on there. The second version added more features, and I'm even thinking, not I'm thinking, I will probably add more features like iOS widgets on your home screen, so you can actually see the actual countdown happening. And it's all things that I don't know how to do, but that's the best part about it. I will figure it out, and that's part of the process, and that's what I really enjoy about it. So I would say Optil is one of my most proud ones, just because it kind of embodies my personal mission and my personal um the way I look at things in general.
That is awesome. I'm going to download that app to my phone right after this call. But I think I'm hearing a couple of themes from what you just said. The first one is the importance of kind of going through that entire dev lifecycle from ideation to developing and actually putting it out on the App Store, which is awesome that you had that experience before you even got to Microsoft. And the second one is the importance of getting it out in front of people and really thinking through almost like the steps of what is the minimum viable product all the way to how do we add on additional value added features over time. So that is absolutely incredible what you've done. And I can't wait to go check it out. Yeah. Would love to hear a bit more about your role. So it sounds like you've got a lot of things going on. What is the best thing and the worst thing about your job?
At Candoor at Microsoft.
Let's start with Microsoft and then you can tell me about Candoor.
Okay. At Microsoft, the best thing is I would say the Microsoft culture. It's a very empowering place. It's a very um it's a culture that's based on the people, which is awesome. It's a culture that helps you build yourself and also encourages you to invest in other people's growth, which not a lot of places do. A lot of places may have a cutthroat culture. At Microsoft, they're actually, um, you know, rewarded and you're actually um, what's the word I'm looking for? You're gauged based on the impact you make and the impact you're based on sorry you're gauged based on the impact you make, the impact to others that you make to other people, and how you've used other people's impact to make yourself better. And those three buckets just scream group community, which is something that's really really good. So it's not a I, it's a I, but also we. And if you close two of the pockets, for example, say you close, like your impact to the business in general and your impact to other people, but you don't leverage other people to make your work better, then that's not seen as the most optimal, which is something that, it's something that's taken me time to learn because I'm always used to doing it myself. But just being in that environment and, understanding that, hey, I can reach out to other people, I can leverage this person because that's what they're there for. I think that's the best thing I like about it. The worst thing about it, I wouldn't necessarily call it the worst thing. It's just what kind of keeps me up at night. Sometimes it's the scale. It's a good thing and a bad thing. So most of the services that I work on at Microsoft, directly impact the business, directly impact customer experiences, directly impact a lot of things that are very high visibility and very critical services. So if it goes down, you will most likely hear about it in the news, and that's not. It's a high stakes environment, which it, I wouldn't call it a worst thing. It's just what kind of keeps me up at night from time to time, where I always second guess myself, or I was, you always want to make sure your work is in tip top condition, just because of the impact that you may have. Best thing I love about Candoor is our mission. First of all, I honestly, my personal story, Wadud, our CEO, actually mentored me in college, and so he was that person. He was one of the people that I had a candid conversation with early on in my career that helped me open a lot of things. And so I love our mission. I love the platform we're building. You have done an amazing job, Christina, in designing and just making our product to where it is today. And I'm pretty sure there's way, way, way more we can do. And I am really excited to work with you on that. Second is our team. Yeah, our team is amazing. I've said this to you several times, even off camera. You are amazing at what you do. What you do. Shelby is amazing at what she does. What dude is, really, really good too. And so I think the best thing about working at Candoor is just the team, our mission, and our team. I feel like, if anyone, I just feel like we have the dream team. I know we say it a lot, but I think our team is what makes us special, along with the work that we're doing and our mission. In terms of, the worst thing, I don't, I don't think there's a worst thing about working at Candoor. Honestly, I think we're a group of people who really love what we do and we have a passion for to do it at the highest level, and because of that there may be some trying to make things as good as possible the first time, but in essence we just have to, hey, we just like, it just has to work. It doesn't have to be the best version yet, just so and we've had that conversation a lot as to whether, hey, we should implement this feature this way, and I'm like, hey, let's just get it out. And then I end up working to try to get it out, and I realize this can be better, and end up spending those 3, 4 extra hours, which then to make it better. And so that's just the situation that we find ourselves in. But I think it's a situation that happens with people who are at our level, at our caliber, just trying to make sure everything is really as best as it can be.
Amen. I feel that so much. And kind of tying both of those two answers together, when you're working on something that is so high impact, that has the potential or is already, underpinning, millions of people's lives, like there's a lot of pressure that you can put on yourself. And one of the hardest things that you mentioned is how do you think through prioritization, right? And what needs to be built and fixed now versus what needs to be done later. In a startup, sometimes I feel like at Canada, we're building the plane as we're flying it, but we've got the right team, as you said, to really make that happen. So I'm really thrilled about that too. Tell us a bit more about how you and your career goals have changed over time. Were there any sort of challenges that you've had to overcome that you want to dive into there?
Yeah, one a recent one actually is in the past. I won't say in the past. I've always thought of myself as an individual contributor. So I love being in the code. I love writing the code. I love designing the systems, and I love just being in there and just writing it, right? Like I love the ones and zeros, the little if statements, the switch statements, the functions. I just live for those things, and just seeing it in a bigger scale as well, right? How does this component talk to this component? We had conversations about, like, decoupling our system and just having it in a way where, when there's everything is loosely coupled. So if one thing is down, another thing is not down. Just all those design decisions, all those design talks, I leave for things like that. But as my career has progressed, I found that I am good at those things, but I also need to empower other people to be good at it. I need to move. I'm gradually moving away from an individual contributor to more of a leader, where I do the design and I know how to implement it, but I have, either junior engineers under me, or just people who I should give the chance to actually learn to implement it. Right? Me doing it is doesn't it's not going to add anything extra to my career because I've already done it in the past. But empowering someone to do it is the next step. And that's how my role and my goals have changed over time. It took me a while to understand it. It took me a while to come to terms with it, especially since my manager at work gradually pushed me to do that. It's like, hey, you've designed the systems. How about you talk to this person and show them how to do it, teach them how to do it? And a lot of it comes with patience. I think that was the biggest part. Just realizing that I know I can do this in less than an hour, but it'll take X amount of person, maybe a day to do it, and that's okay, right? If there's no hard deadlines, if there's no pressure, be patient with them, and that's something that I've learned over time, and I think I'm gradually getting the hang of. But I think that's been the biggest challenge so far.
Yeah, I feel you. I wish that we could just copy and paste you multiple times and just have you build everything. But I think the ability to really scale yourself beyond yourself, I think, is an amazing skill, and I'm really looking forward to any learnings that you have that you can share with the rest of us at some point. Taking a step back, there's a lot of people that are listening to this who are interested in careers in software engineering. What advice or tips would you give to an aspiring software engineer?
Absolutely. First, you can do it. You can do it. It's I think it's more of a mindset thing, and I have the mindset as to, if it's possible within reason, right? Obviously, I can jump off a balcony and fly. That's a whole different, realm of possibilities where we probably we wouldn't get into. But if it's possible, if other people have done it, and if you have a goal to do it, I think you can definitely do it. It'll be challenging, right? Like any new thing, riding a bicycle, driving a car. The first few times are like, what am I doing? You're in a new world. It's out of your comfort zone. It is meant to feel that way. Just being comfortable in that uncomfortable zone and just pushing through it, right? And realizing that everything will eventually work out, and just being consistent with it, right? Once you're in that mindset that regardless of how long it takes, I will do it. The next thing is just, it sounds very cliche, but just do it, right? Just be in the weeds, constantly do it, constantly push through boundaries. There's uncomfortable situations where everything that's being said is flying over your head, but that's because it's the first time you're hearing about it. It's the first time you're seeing it, right? The next time you see it, it'll be a lot easier, right? The second time you rode a bicycle, or the 500th time you rode a bicycle, it was way easier than the first time, right? So just stick with it and just keep doing it. And the best thing that I would advise is just work on projects outside work for things that you want to do. Explore. Software is so broad. You could work on things from mobile apps to self-driving cars to so many things, right? What are you interested in, right? Pick one thing, try it out. If you don't like it, move on to the next thing. That's the beauty of software. So I think those are the main tips. I have a lot more, but in terms of the general umbrella of tips, just keep going, man. Just be consistent with it, and um, eventually everything will work out. Yeah.
I love that. I think the consistency is key thing is something that I personally struggle with sometimes because I feel like there's pressure to show up perfectly every single day and always be productive all the time. But what you said around just showing up and just keep learning and just keep going is really inspiring. And that's the type of energy that I think really leads to results in the long run. I wanted to go back to one of your earlier answers around these portfolio projects or personal projects. Like, how would I get started? What advice do you have to someone on picking what project to do, like what programming languages to learn? Like, how would I tactically go about doing one of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's your first time, I think focusing less on the programming language and more on just the programming concept, right? Like an if statement is the same in every language. Switch statements, the language that have them, exact same. A function, every language has a function, right? Just learning those things. If you're new to programming, right? And from there, say we want to move to working on projects, right? The easiest projects to work on are the ones that are readily available and the ones that are like easy to implement, right? That where the barrier to entry is low, and those most of them are web development projects, right? You don't have to do web development projects. You could write a Python script that just pulls your songs or your playlist from Spotify, for example, and just prints them, and that's a project right there because you just worked with a commercially available API, which is what 99% of programming is right there, right? So it doesn't have to be the flashiest things, it doesn't have to be the biggest things, it doesn't have to be the fanciest things. Just pick something that you're interested in where there's an external facing component to it, because that's what most of software is, just working with external components. And I think that's one of the advanced ones. One of the simple ones, my first project was building a web calculator in HTML and CSS. Just having a web page where you can just click 1 + 1 = 2, building that UI out, building the functionality out, and that was the whole project. That was it right there. So that was just picking something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be the grandest thing. I think when a lot of people think of programming, they think of a person in a dark room just hacking on, and they think, if it's not one of those big things, then it's not worth it. I just made a video about it. Like, majority of programming is the simple things, right? It's a form that captures a user's data and stores it in a database. That's perfectly fine. It's a form that it's a simple landing page for a website that just conveys information in a specific way. That's programming too. So think of the smaller things, and from there graduates to things that would be more advanced, maybe working with on lower level systems with C++ or things like that. Again, I think that's my take on it. Just start small. The small things may seem small, but they're big. They also enable you to do the bigger things in the future. Yeah.
I love that. Breaking down something big into smaller parts. I feel like that's sort of the essence of everything there. And starting small and building up makes a lot of sense. You mentioned something about putting out videos. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. So I also create videos online. I have a I have a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram account, and a TikTok channel as well, where I just make videos about programming. I love this. I love coding, and I read a book called "Show Your Work" by Austin Kleon, and it just inspired me to put my work out there, put what I'm passionate about, because it'll eventually attract people to you, and that's the way you build your community. So I make videos about programming. The my catch tag is just everything programming. So today it could be, hey, this is how a switch statement works. This is when you use an if else statement versus switch statement, or this is the truth about programming projects, or just it could be about anything. It could be about how to break into coding, like just a wide variety of things. Tomorrow it could be, hey, I made this web application that transfers your music playlist from Spotify to Apple Music, and here's how I did it, right? Or I made this URL shortener. So it's a wide variety of programming projects and just everything programming related. I think about it, I write it, I script it, I shoot it, I edit it, and I post it, and I move on to the next one.
The the videos are absolutely amazing. For anyone listening, umacodes.com. There you can check out more about his portfolio and some of his amazing videos that he's put up. That's awesome. I don't know how you have time to do this and your job and Candoor. How do you create a work life balance for yourself? How do you practice self care?
I think a lot of it just stems from one, prioritizing. So figuring out what's a priority for you, and then going based off that. I believe, you know, I don't I personally believe in the. I don't personally believe in the. I don't have time. I think whenever I try to do something, whenever someone is trying to you know, get me on to do something. It's about, is that a priority for me? If it's not a priority, then you know, I have other things to prioritize over it. And so part of what I try to prioritize is just my health in general. And so there will be some nights where I slack, you know, not having the greatest sleep because work needs to get done. But there are other days where I prioritize just taking the whole day off just to relax, right? Or taking, like, the gym, for example. I don't joke around with the gym. I always try to slot it one sometime in my day. It could be just going for a run in the morning, or going to the gym in the evenings at like 8 p.m. when it's empty, just so I can, you know, get like an hour and a half in of my workout. And so I think most of my time management for work life balance just comes from prioritizing everything. I keep a calendar that keeps me through to everything. And so I try to put it in my I try to put things that are due, or my meetings, everything goes on my calendar. So if I see a free time slot on my calendar, then I know, okay, I can, you know, try to put this in. I also have a whiteboard behind me, you can see, that has a list of my high priority to dos along with the dates, just so I don't miss those. But in general, just making sure the list of my priorities are good, and just trying to keep to them, and listening to myself if I don't feel good, or if I don't feel like, hey, you know, this can be done in this time. It's something that I'm learning to do, but just being vocal and, you know, communicating to my team, saying, hey, I need help on this, or I need extra time, because I try to feel like Superman sometimes, but I'm not. I try to do everything. And so yeah, that's pretty much how I try to balance everything.
That's really, really great advice. I hear time blocks, ruthless prioritization, and knowing when to set boundaries and really advocate for yourself. So, really great things that I think we could all really learn from as well. It's been awesome speaking with you. I have one final question, Uma, before we let you go, which is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self or those just starting off in their careers?
um that's a good one. That's a good one. Let me see. So what advice I would give to myself would be, um there was a stage in my life where, I knowing what I know now, I would just probably tell myself, hey, like, don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink it, right? Like, um plan it to the best of your ability, using the information you have at the time. Just go for it. And I think another big one is, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she mentioned this, being patient with my potential, right? Like, I know I can achieve a lot. I know I can do a lot. I know I can, you know, I know what I'm capable of. Sometimes I'm just not patient with myself, and I have high expectations for myself. And so at that time, in my when I was younger, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do a lot, and most of the time, when it didn't happen or when it didn't fall into place, I would get frustrated, right, and things like that. So I think the same advice goes to people who are just starting off in their careers. You have a goal. Just be patient with your potential, and eventually you'll get there. And just, again, back to what I said, with people who want to do programming, just do it. Try to leverage other people. Try to, you know, reach out to other people, and it'll all work out in the end. And if it doesn't, it's not the end, right? Just keeping that positive mindset, and having that um having that mindset where you can do it. And yeah, reach out to people if you need help, and being patient with your potential. I think that's the biggest one.
Thank you so much, Uma. It was a pleasure having you today.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Christina.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Candid Conversations. If you're a college student or recent grad from an underserved background interested in connecting with Uma one on one, apply at www.candoor.io to join our platform as an advisee. If you're an industry professional who shares our mission to democratize access to transformative careers, we'd love to have you join Candoor as an advisor. Until next time.